What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Sorry, I was just putting my phone away there, sending off a last-minute text message. Look, man, we are here for another Friday Q&A, week 12 of the fantasy football season, right here, right around the corner. Big news today, Brock Purdy will not be playing this week, which is kind of a kick in the nuts, honestly, if you have Deebo Samuel like I do. If you have George Kittle, who was out last week, and now he's probably going to be in without Brock Purdy. It sucks, man. It sucks. The Niners season has not gone as planned, and because of that, a lot of our fantasy football options from the Niners have not been great either. So, look, man, we got a lot of questions to answer today, lots of stuff to talk about. I see we got some questions in the chat. Saw some people in here early. Frankie, he says, yo, what up, Frankie? Josiah says, go Pack, go. I'm going to hit you with a skull as well, just because it fits the vibes here. And Johnny with the first question of the evening. He says, what's up, Andrew? PPR, Christian Watson versus San Francisco or Michael Pittman Jr. versus Detroit? My gut says Pittman, head says Watson. Yeah, this is a good question. I think for me right now, I'm with you with the gut. I think my gut also says Michael Pittman Jr. Christian Watson, there should be some snow in that game, is what it sounds like. Also, without Brock Purdy in the lineup, it could be a blowout for San Francisco, unfortunately. So we could see a lot of Josh Jacobs in the second half. So I'm with you, man. I think Michael Pittman is probably the play. So trust your gut there. MK says, how much worse can Deebo get? He has been so bad. He has been very, very bad. It has not been great for Deebo Samuel. I mean, we can talk about him right now. I'll pull up his rankings over the last couple of weeks because, like you said, it hasn't been great. I mean, let's just talk about it, man. The first 2 weeks of the season, he was a top 12 wide receiver in week 1. He was a top 16 wide receiver in week 2. I'm actually going to share my screen too when we do this so you guys can see. Yeah, look, not great, right? 16 and then 42, 76, 5, 156, 37, 24, 62. Not great, dude. He has pretty much been unstartable for the majority of the year. Most weeks, outside of like 3 or 4 different weeks, he's been outside of the top 36. He has been very bad for us in fantasy football, and it hasn't been great. And then even the last couple of weeks as well, we have had Juwan Jennings outscoring him, and out-targeting him, so it's not been good. Let's take that off the screen. Tracy or D-Hop, full PPR, pick one. I'm going with Tracy. Tracy would be my play there. Lions or Buccaneers, defensive special teams. I'm going to be going with the Buccaneers. You got to target Tommy DeVito. Keaton, got 2 flex decisions to make, both full PPR. Number 1, JSN or Bucky. Number 2, Pop Douglas, Rome, or Addison. So for me, I'm going to be going number 1 on that question. It's going to be JSN over Bucky. In that second question, I will go Rome Odunze over all of those options. I think Rome would be my play there. So Rome and JSN for me. Frankie, full PPR, 3 wide receivers plus flex. Starting Sutton and Zay Flowers. Start one of these dudes. Jameson Williams versus the Colts, Watson versus the 49ers, Downs versus the Lions, or QJ versus the Ravens. Okay, I think I'm going to lean with Downs versus the Lions. He would be my play if that really doesn't tickle your fancy. I guess Jameson, but I would be playing Downs. Easy says, hey, new sub. Was starting Kittle, but now with Purdy out, I'm worried. Should I start Kittle or Otton? If I start Otton for flex, should I put Pollard or Kittle? That's a good question, man. I think I still lean Kittle over Otton, but I actually might lean Otton over Pollard in the flex, especially if this is potentially a tight end premium. If it's not a tight end premium, it looks like he says it's full PPR, so if it's full PPR, that is what it is. I don't love the matchup for Pollard this week. It's not great, so I'm probably going to go Kittle. I would probably play Kittle and Otton, just being honest. We got Pollard or Chuba, PPR. Not great matchups for either. Not a big fan of the Pollard matchup. Not a big fan, really not a big fan of the Chuba rankings. Or the Chuba matchup. Don't have him high in my rankings. I'm probably going to still play Chuba, over Pollard, but I don't like the matchup for either of these guys. Manchez says, now with news that Purdy is out, should I start Jennings or Reed at the flex? I think I'm probably going to play Jaden Reed. Will says, trade deadlines tonight. My team is Kyler, Pacheco, Brees, Hunt, Pollard, Rashad White, Jaden Reed, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Myers, Kraft, Kincaid. Any glaring moves I should make tonight or upgrade my roster? So let me just, now that we have the question, let me look at the roster again critically. I think right now, looking at your running backs, Pollard, Hunt, White might feel like you have a hole there potentially once Pacheco. I guess you have Pacheco already in there, so I guess maybe we don't have a hole. Honestly, this roster feels fine. I probably would try and move one of these tight ends and get another wide receiver that you can flex, or use them and Myers to package them together to upgrade a wide receiver, and then I would just be playing the tight end that you have the rest of the way. Potentially Kincaid, just because he's going to be past his bye week after this week, so probably would be looking at something like that, and then just stream the waiver wire position this week if you have to, at the tight end position. So where are we at here? Crizzy says Achane for Marvin Harrison Jr. Give me the Achane side. I like the Achane side there. Still love Marvin Harrison Jr.'s rest of season rankings, but Achane is my guy there. A-Rich or Goff? Give me Goff this week. Keaton says Laporta or Hawkinson this week. Also, how about the Motley Crew finally getting some love in the rankings? Yeah, finally, man. Finally, we've gotten some love. The Motley Crew has not gotten love all year, and that is a Motley Crew there, Keaton, with 2 T's, because my last name is Mott, M-O-T-T, so it's Motley Crew. But yes, we are finally getting some love in the rankings. For me this week, Laporta or Hawkinson. I think I'm going to go with TJ Hawkinson over Sam Laporta. Let's move to this question. Kyler or Herbert, pick one full PPR. I'm going to play Herbert this week over Kyler. Hello, start 2, Tank, Debo, or Quentin Johnston, half PPR. Thanks. Oh, this is so tough because with Brandon Allen, I think Brandon Allen is the starter there. Just the most generic name of all time, Brandon Allen. Start 2, I'm probably going to go with QJ and Tank over Debo. I probably don't want to play Debo at this point. In which quarter do the Colts sub in Flacco? Jesus. Hopefully not at all. I mean, hopefully they just let A-Rich go the rest of the year. Alex says, gotta bench Debo, flex Rashad White versus the New York Giants, or Ramondre versus Miami. I would rather play Ramondre against the Miami Dolphins over Rashad White. Wandell or Rome full PPR. I'm going to be playing Rome over Wandell. Manchez says, should I try and trade Tyreek and James Cook for Mike Evans? My wide receiver 1 is A.J. Brown. No, I would not be doing that. I like Tyreek and James Cook as a package more than Mike Evans. In fact, rest of season, I think I still like Tyreek more than Mike Evans. So I wouldn't even be throwing anything on top. I'll take the Tyreek and James Cook side. Who do you prefer rest of season, Hurts or Lamar? Good question. I'm going to pull up both of their rest of season schedules. It's going to be really tough for me to not say Lamar Jackson with how good Lamar Jackson has played. But I'm looking at the schedule-adjusted strength of schedule over the last couple weeks of the season, all the way down to week 18. I guess I should probably filter it to 17 because most of us are not playing in week 18. You got right now the Baltimore Ravens as the 31st easiest matchup, which in other terms is the second toughest matchup. The Eagles are 14th. So you get some good matchups. You get Los Angeles, Baltimore, Carolina for the Eagles. But in the playoffs, you get a tough Pittsburgh matchup. You get Washington, which is middle of the pack. And then you get Dallas, who's a pretty bad matchup, or a pretty good matchup for them. They are bad against quarterbacks. So not a bad rest of season. The Ravens, they get the Chargers this week. They get Philly next week. They're on a bye. New York Giants, and then Pittsburgh. Honestly, I think there's a real argument, just looking at the schedule here and double checking it, I think there's a real argument you go Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is probably the guy that I prefer rest of season. And that sounds crazy because Lamar is balling out, but I think Jalen Hurts is going to ball out the rest of the way too. Austin says, do I still play Kittle with Purdy out, or do I go with Disley? Very good question. I have Disley very high in my rankings this week. I'm going to reference where I have him because I want to say I have him like tight end 5. Let me just double check that. I have him tight end 4. So I have him above Kittle. I'm probably going to play Disley over Kittle this week. Manchez says, the fact that Mike Evans is chasing that 1,000-yard mark is what makes me want him. He could go crazy on a run with Godwin now. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, honestly, because he does need to he needs to get active if he wants to get that 1,000-yard mark. And I really hate to see him not get it because of injury, but hey, bro, it's going to happen eventually, I guess. But we'll see what happens. If I was a betting man, I would bet that this year he does not get to that 1,000-yard mark. I would bet that he doesn't. Johnny says, Daniel Jones to CD rest of season. I saw something on Twitter today, or I guess X, of somebody rumored or whatever that the Cowboys put Daniel Jones' photo on their website. I don't know if that makes sense to me. I just feel like the best potential spot for Daniel Jones right now would probably be, I don't mind him going to San Francisco if Brock Purdy's injury is a little bit, more than we think. But also, that being said, the San Francisco 49ers, if his injury is more serious, there is no reason to keep trying to contend. You also already have Joshua Dobbs on the roster. You could probably just roll with him. I don't know. I feel like Daniel Jones probably needs to go to a place with a good head coach that can teach him. I don't really want it to happen, but to me, it feels like a good spot for him would potentially be to go back up Sam Darnold the rest of the way in Minnesota if he clears waivers. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a resurgence. He gets to work with Kevin O'Connell, who's already kind of helped Sam Darnold bounce back. Maybe that happens. I don't know. We don't have a great backup outside of him, so we'll see. Dixon says, I've got like 5 players on bye, hoping that QJ, Christian Watson, and Calvin Ridley can show up. Would you start Tampa Bay defensive special teams or Commanders? Also Laporta or Hawkinson? I would go Hawkinson over Laporta. And then, what's the other part? Would you start Tampa Bay or Commanders? I'm going to play Tampa Bay over the Commanders defense. All right, Art says, I got Lamar, so I might trade for Hurts because I got Saquon too, and when he steals the touchdowns, don't be mad. I mean, yeah, hey, that's the way to do it, right? If you're not going to get the rushing touchdowns for Saquon, you at least get the rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. So that's one way to do it. Manchez says, I'd just keep Lamar. That's another way to do it. I think you could probably get Jalen Hurts plus something for Lamar, and if you can get the plus something, depending on what that plus is, then I probably am considering it. Rest of season, Kyler or Burrow. I think I'm going to go Kyler, man. And that sounds crazy because Burrow's been good. But Burrow and Chase right now, with the way that the season's been playing out, it kind of scares me. Looking at Kyler Murray's rest of his games, he gets Seattle this week, Minnesota, Seattle again, New England. These aren't like super tough matchups. Minnesota's good, with the blitz, but other than that, like, they're not great defenses that are just shutting people down. And then I look at Joe Burrow, obviously on bye this week, and then you have some tougher matchups as well. Still obviously playing in that AFC North. It's tough, man. I think I'd probably go Kyler, and he has the rushing upside. All right, Justin Herbert or Jaden Daniels. This week for me, I'm going Justin Herbert. I currently have him as my QB3 on the week. It's literally Lamar, Jalen Hurts, and then Justin Herbert. Those are my top 3 QBs on the week. Hawk or Jonnu. I'm going Hawk. Dixon says, also want to say thanks, bro. Went from 2-6 to 5-6. Got a shot to make the playoffs thanks to your help. Dude, that's freaking awesome. I appreciate you, partially giving me credit. You deserve credit too. You're the one making the moves. I just am here to give you a soundboard to bounce off of. I appreciate it though. But yeah, dude, that's really cool. Going 2-6 to 5-6. Now it's time to dive in and see if you can make those playoffs. That's exactly what we want, man. I love to hear that. Thank you. What else we got, guys? Let me just go through some news real quick while I wait for some more questions to get in, because we did have some extra news that came in earlier today. Obviously, like I said, the big news is going to be Brock Purdy, Daniel Jones being released. We kind of touched on both of those. Oh, another one. Devonta Smith is not playing this week, so Devonta Smith will not be playing, which is very unfortunate because I just traded for Devonta Smith in a league that I need to get a win, and yeah, not great. You hate to see that. So he got taken out of the rankings this week. It's not going to be good for him. Isaiah Pacheco is not playing, which is good for Kareem Hunt because this Carolina Panthers defense is a perfect matchup for him. So you're going to get a huge game from Hunt, or at least I'm projecting a very good game from Kareem Hunt here this week. But I think outside of that, that might be those last injuries. There's a couple other guys that we're probably going to be monitoring as we get into tomorrow and Sunday morning. Josh Jacobs, he has a quad injury. DeAndre Swift has a groin injury. Madison and Zamir White both have injuries. CeeDee Lamb has a back injury. Ladd McConkey has a shoulder injury, and George Kittle has a hamstring injury. So we'll see, how these develop, but there's lots and lots of injuries going around right now. It's that time of the year, man. It's starting to add up. What else we got? What are your thoughts on Davante Adams rest of the season? Should I try to move him or keep him as my wide receiver 3? I don't love Davante Adams the rest of the way. Honestly, I would probably be trying to move him, and Davante Adams in itself may have some name value that you can capitalize off of. Like if I could move Adams for Ladd McConkey the rest of the way, I would rather have Ladd McConkey the rest of the way. If I could get a George Pickens, I would rather have a George Pickens the rest of the way. If I could get who's somebody else? I'm searching for names here. I think if you could maybe get a JSN, you probably want JSN the rest of the way. Those are all names that I would be exploring for my Davante Adams if somebody's willing to buy off the name value. Will says Marvin Harrison Jr. or CD rest of season, half PPR. I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Marcy says Downs or McLaurin, full PPR flex. Leaning Terry, but PTSD from last week. Yeah, not a great last week from Terry. I also have Terry higher in my rankings. I have him as my wide receiver 11 this week. When it comes down to Josh Downs, I currently have him as my wide receiver 20. So I would be leaning with McLaurin as well. I know the PTSD from last week hurts, but I'd be playing him over Josh Downs if I had to. Cody says, I have to stay on top of the Swift news. I have Roschon in a half PPR league. Yeah, I mean, here's one thing to note as well, though, too. We just put a video on the channel yesterday that was my starts and sits of the week, and we talked about this matchup for Swift. I don't like this matchup for Swift at all. The Minnesota Vikings have been very vulnerable to the wide receiver position, and so it's really good to target wide receivers that are playing the Minnesota Vikings, but they've been very good against running backs. And then, obviously, DeAndre Swift had kind of already had some of his workload eaten into a little bit by Roschon Johnson with that offensive coordinator change. So that was something that I wasn't a fan of. Obviously, that matchup is still going to apply to Roschon, so I'm not super eager to plug Roschon into my lineups if I don't have to in leagues where you have him. But obviously, it's going to be something to keep in mind because if Swift doesn't go, which I think he was a participant today, so if I'm remembering, I think he was a participant today, so it sounds like he might play. Roschon is still a guy, obviously, that I'm not trying to just throw into my lineup. MK says, as a K3 owner, would you drop Charbonnet for Evan Ingram's buy? No, I would. If I had Kenneth Walker on my squad, I would be holding that handcuff rest of the way. Dan says, flex, full PPR, Debo, Jonathan Taylor, or Mr. McConkey. I'm going to go with Mr. McConkey. We're going Ladd McConkey in a full PPR. Edson says, start Eckler, Ertz, or Ridley. You got to pick two of the three, I think, is what that means. I'm going to go with Eckler and Ridley there. Marcy says, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Eckler, or Pittman. Need one for flex and full PPR league. I'm going to go with... I think I'm going to go with Austin Eckler here over those options. Vince says, need a wide receiver who I can trade for with James Conner. Or need a wide receiver who can I trade for with James Conner. I love James Conner's rest of season schedule. It's one of the best in football. So I'm not super eager to trade him. However, if I was trading James Conner, I would probably be looking for... I mean, it's kind of that same tier, right? George Pickens, Ladd McConkey, Zay Flowers, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf maybe. If you can get into those guys, that's probably what I'm targeting, but I'm not super eager to trade James Conner. I love the schedule rest of the way. Perry says, I sent Chase Brown in a late 2020 or a late 2026 second for a late 20 or a mid 25 first. Damn, bro, I'm like spazzing right here. Mid 25 first. Getting first in this league is tough, and I don't have my own. I mean, I don't hate that at all. Chase Brown is definitely playing very well right now, and he's probably going to play very well the rest of the way. He's still a running back that doesn't have a ton of draft capital and could get some added competition in this backfield next year. So I don't hate it. If firsts are hard to come by and you need that and you need to get liquid, it makes sense. Dollar Bill, Caleb or Anthony Richardson, Watson or Thielen. I'm going to go Watson over Thielen, and I think I'm going to go Caleb over A-Rich. Johnny says Charbonnet is garbage. That's crazy. I mean, he's fine when every time that Kenneth Walker has missed time, I feel like Charbonnet's been fine and a very solid play. So I don't know. That feels like extra hate, Johnny. Marcy says DeAndre Swift, Lad McConkey, or DeAndre Hopkins play 2 in a full PPR. I would go McConkey Hopkins in a full PPR. Johnny says half PPR, start Ramondre Stevenson or DJ Moore. I'm going Ramondre Stevenson. I just like that matchup more, so I'll play Ramondre. Perry says, I think the Bengals draft a running back. I'd rather turn that pick into a guy like Judkins. That makes sense. They could potentially draft a running back as well. Like we said earlier, this is a really good running back class. There's a lot of depth to it. So there is going to be a lot of running backs that do find themselves into backfields. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get a ton of starting running backs, but there are going to be a lot of guys that find themselves in backfields. So it's going to get a little bit messy, I think, as we get to the summer. Vince says DeVito or A-Rich this week. I'm going A-Rich. J-Cast says Sharp popped off when Walker was out those 2 weeks. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I feel like Sharp, when he's called upon, when Kenneth Walker is not on the football field, when he's called upon, he does fine. He's a fine fill-in. Nothing crazy. All right. Oh, wait. We passed one. I sent Richardson, Downs, and Flacco for May in 3 seconds. The week before May was starter. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, that feels like a dub. I think at this point I would take May over Richardson and Downs together. So getting the 3 seconds on top, that's a dub. Cody says, pick one, full PPR, Josh Jacobs versus San Francisco or James Conner at Seattle. I think I have these guys very close in my rankings. Right now I got Jacobs at 8 and Conner at 10. So I think I'm still going to play Josh Jacobs, but we're going to be watching him because, like I said, he does have an injury that we're paying attention to, but I would still probably play him over Conner just by a little bit. But James Conner's a top 10 back in my rankings, so I'd be trying to find a way to get him into my lineup if I can, even if it's a flex. Johnny says Sharps hasn't topped 20 yards rushing since week 3. Yeah, I mean, when was Walker out, bro? Because I feel like that's not like a crazy stat if Kenneth Walker's been in this lineup this whole time. Yeah, I mean, week 3, those were when he was plugged in. I mean, he doesn't have a huge role in the offense. He's a handcuff. But he's a good handcuff. So, yeah, I mean, those were the 2 weeks that he played. But the 2 weeks that he played, week 2 at New England, he has 19 opportunities, scored 15.4 fantasy points. That was 15 overall. This is half PPR, by the way, not full PPR. But he was an RB15, and then week 3, he was the RB7. So, I mean, if you can get top 24 coming in there, why not, man? All right. What else we got in here? Mateo. Start McBride or Jonnu Smith, full PPR. It's going to be McBride for me. That in the chat, bro, that's crazy as shit. I just had to ban that girl. It's probably not even a girl, if we're being honest, folks. Do you think Douglas is worth a second? No, I would not pay a second for Demario Douglas personally. Is May over A-Rich this week? Yes. Just traded Jaden Reed and Devontae Adams for Bucky Irving and Ladd. Thoughts? I don't mind it at all. I think I would take Ladd over Devontae Adams. I'd probably take Jaden Reed over Bucky the rest of the way, but I like the Bucky Irving and the Ladd side. Cody says, easily my toughest decision of the weekend. I got Evans back, so I have him at my flex. Could go Connor over Evans. I probably go Connor over Evans, personally, just to see what he does this week. First week back, and he did get added again to the injury report today. They said it was questionable. He went from healthy to questionable today, so that's something worth noting. Edson says, I sent a second for Ridley. How you feel about it? I love his rest of season schedule. Yeah, in a dynasty, I don't mind you sending a second for Ridley. His end of season schedule is very good. I just don't know what Ridley. I mean, at this point in his career, I don't know what more we're really going to get out of Ridley other than what we've been getting without a change of scenery or a massive upgrade at quarterback. But a second's not bad. I mean, you could definitely get worse. I do like his rest of season schedule, though. All right. What else we got, folks? Other than banning college girl Tiffany out of the chat. Am I the only one who saw that, or did y'all see that as well? Sorry, I was just scrolling to see if we had any other things that I missed that we haven't talked about. Just don't want to miss anything important. Jake Ferguson is out. We kind of knew that with the concussion being on Monday night. I think that might be it, man. I think that might be it. I think so. Vincent here says, I saw it. Yeah, bro. I'm just insane behavior. Insane. Yeah, man. What do we got? Cam says I missed it. Hey, you didn't miss much, bro. Edson says, what's the most you'll pay for Cooper Rush type? Had T-Law, probably going to need to find production from somewhere else. For a guy like Cooper Rush, I mean, look, if I'm in a 12-team Superflex dynasty where I need quarterback play, and you get guys like that pop in, throughout the year, or we know that they're going to be the starter for the rest of the year. Like, I even think Tommy DeVito is probably the starter the rest of the year, so we'll see. But a pair of thirds, 2/3, like that's probably the most that I'm giving. I'm never going into that second round tier unless I believe that they can potentially have, a shot next year. A guy like Cooper Rush, we know he's never going to be a starter outside of injury, so probably not. What do we got in here? Edson says, also picked up Mac Jones, but he's been irrelevant in fantasy. Yeah, it hasn't been great. Cody says, thank you, Andrew. Have a good weekend. Thank you too, Cody. Hopefully you have a good weekend as well. Johnny's saying he misses Tiffany already. We got to get Johnny out of the chat, brother. You probably need some stress relief the way that she was talking about. Paris says, what'd she say? You need some stress relief is what she said. Are you in the Warrior Bowl? I am not in the Warrior Bowl. In fact, I don't know what the Warrior Bowl is, Paris, so maybe you can fill me in, bro. Getting Dak for Carr and Tyrone Tracy Jr. I like that move for you. He says thoughts, but yeah, I like that move for you. Johnny says Drew Lock to the moon. Brother, I'm so annoyed with the Drew Lock stuff. And I feel like Drew Lock was very professional in his interview, because if it were me in that situation, bro, where they bring you in, they tell you that you're the number 2. I even remember back in training camp, they said something like he could compete potentially for the starting job. Then he gets to be the 2 all year, and then they're like, we don't want Danny because of the contract. We don't want Drew because of the contract. You mother effers signed me to the contract, bro, to be the backup. And then the starter goes out, and you want to skip over me in the depth chart to go to the 3rd string, bro? Crazy. Edson says, I was thinking 2/4. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not giving up too much. Crazy, man. Crazy. What else we got, folks? Not too much. Is it one of them nights, man? Is it a little bit slow? We're getting to week 12, 13, 14. I know as we get to the back half of the season, some people are like, this ain't fun, my team ain't good, or maybe they're just cruising to the playoffs and they're like, let's just get to the playoff weeks. Maybe this is where we're at. Maybe. Perry says it's a huge fantasy league that has a lot of dynasty writers and creators in. The money goes to charity. So I've heard of I've never heard of the Warrior Bowl. I mean, I'd love to be able to be a part of something like that, but I've heard of like Scott Fish Bowl, which is something similar. If that's maybe what you're referring to, but Scott Fish Bowl is like a huge fantasy league too that everything goes to charity. Cam says start 1 wide receiver and 2 flex. Downs, Dobbins, Hopkins, Flowers, JSN. I'm going to play Downs, Flowers, and JSN. We're just going to rock the whole way down. Downs, Flowers, JSN. Johnny says it's a contract issue. A percentage of snaps. DeVito starts this week, then lock from there to the end. I hope so, man. I hope so because I actually kind of like Drew Lock. I liked him in Denver when he was doing the what was it? Young Jeezy. Is it Young Jeezy or something like that? Basically, he was rapping on the sideline. Really liked Drew Lock for a period of time, as I think most people in the Dynasty community did. But I'm rooting for Lock, man. I'm rooting for Lock. He had a good win last year for the Seahawks. We'll see what he does. Blizzard says, what's up? 10-team PPR Dynasty, and I'm 8-3. Would you trade B-Rob and Devontae for A.J. Brown? I've got Achane, Mixon, Kyren. Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. No doubt about it in my mind. You have Achane, Mixon, Kyren. Achane has passed his bye. Kyren has passed his bye. Who cares? You know, Mixon's still going to have one. Upgrade from Devontae to A.J. Brown. No doubt about it for me. Perry says, where do you have May and Herbert in your rankings? Let's double check. Right now, I got Herbert as QB3, so I have him very high. May, I have him as, where are we at? QB15. I have him as QB15. So Herbert definitely is way above him, but I still have Drake May as a high-end QB2 in your Superflex leagues. Davis says, 12-man PPR redraft between the 4. Which 2 do I start? Juwan, Dobbins, QJ, or Waddle? Between these 4, which 2? I'm going with Dobbins and QJ. I'm pretty soured on the 49ers receivers this week with Brandon Allen under center. Cam says, let's go. Appreciate it. No problem. Edson says, traded Najee away for Javonte Williams and a 4th. Wanted to sell Najee for more, but he has 0 market in my league. What should I do with Williams moving forward? Yeah, this is tough because I think I prefer Najee over Javonte rest of the way. His schedule's tough, but in Dynasty, I think I just prefer Najee. He's been better over the course of his career. What do you do with Williams, though? I'm probably trying to flip him as well. If you can potentially... I mean, quite honestly, if you can potentially go flip Javonte and get an early second in this year's draft class, you should be able to find a running back to replace him. But Javonte's not a guy that I'm really buying at the moment, unfortunately. But it is it's risky with these running backs, man. I'm telling you, if I'm not competing or a top contender, I'm trying to sell off these like fringe running backs. And I guess technically both Najee and Javonte would be. What else we got? Blizzard says, appreciate it. Appreciate you. Paris says, QB3 Herbert. I love it. Took him at 108 in my startup this past offseason. He's so talented. Man, I've traded away Justin Herbert. I mean, look, this is me complaining. I traded away Justin Herbert this offseason for Lamar Jackson. That's worked out quite fine. But yeah, Herbert is not doing as bad as a lot of people thought he would do. They went from that run-heavy offense in those first 4 or 5 weeks to now they are throwing the ball. And so we'll see, man. I love Herbert, man. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the NFL. Unfortunately, don't own many Dynasty shares of him at this point, but I really do love Justin Herbert. I'm a fan. Paris says, May looks a bit like Herbert. I think he's around QB 12. Yeah, I mean, he does look a little bit like Herbert, and that was actually a little bit of the comparison coming into the league. QB 12 right now, I had him at QB 15, but that's weekly rankings for this week specifically, so I'm not sure if you're asking for Dynasty rankings. Dynasty rankings, I probably have them closer together. I definitely don't have Herbert as QB3 in my Dynasty rankings. What are your thoughts on Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix this week? I'm playing against them. against them. Well, I don't like the matchup for Cortland Sutton. It's kind of a tough matchup for them. They're top 5 right now in fantasy points above expectations. So Cortland Sutton should have a tougher matchup. Bo Nix, I still like the matchup for him. He should be pretty solid. It's going to be hit and miss with Sutton. If he gets into the end zone, he's probably going to have a good day. If he doesn't get into the end zone, it may be kind of mediocre. Do you know college football? If so, who's going to the national finals this year? I watch a little bit of college football. I like to watch more so players, just because I'm in dynasty leagues, and I always care about the upcoming rookie classes. I like to find out some of the best guys in those classes, and then I like to follow them the year before. So guys this year that I've been following, you watch Shadur, you watch Cam Ward, you watch some of these other guys, but who do I think is going to go to the national championship this year? I don't know, man, but I really like the way that Jalen Milroe and Bama's been playing. They seem like they could make some noise. I don't know if they'll make it to the national championship, but this is a year where they expanded the national championship to, I think, 12 teams. So it should be a very, very competitive and a very interesting one for the first time ever. Edson says, it was a market thing. I knew Najee stock was going to fall even more, just getting out of it and getting him fourth. And yeah, I'm going to try to flip him for a late second, actually, now that you mentioned it. Yeah, that's probably what I do. Just keep flipping. Paris says, I actually meant dynasty rankings, so that makes more sense now. Yeah, so dynasty rankings, I don't even have those pulled up on the computer at the moment. But I would say probably have Herbert somewhere around like 8-ish range, probably 8, 9. That's probably where I have him. But yeah. Mark says, since Purdy is out, can't decide between Matt Stafford, Drake May, DeVito, or Anthony Richardson. I would probably be playing Drake May, personally. Cam says, what are your thoughts on Taysom Hill? I dropped Kraft for him. I mean, we like Taysom Hill. Rest of the season is what you mean. I don't mind having him be your tight end the rest of the way. He's still going to be used in the run game. He's still going to be used in the receiving game. He's going to throw a random pass here and there as well. It's just the way that they're going to do it the rest of the way. There's no tight end that gives you that unique type of usage, so I don't mind this drop from you of Tucker Kraft, and I don't mind you just playing Taysom the rest of the way either. So, yeah, definitely a guy that I'd probably have rostered if I had him available on my leagues. Gage says, any 2025 way too early rookie sleepers? Nobody that I really want to put a stamp on at this point. I just haven't dug too deep into the deep guys yet. I really dig into a lot of the tape from February to April range. Like starting pretty much the NFL playoffs, that's when I'm starting to dive into all of these guys, and I'm watching 5, 6, 7 different all 22 film games on them, and then I'm watching those and just kind of seeing if they pass the eye test and what I like about them and things like that. But nobody that I have a stamp that I'd like to plug at this point, so I don't really know. I don't have an answer for you yet, but Gage, we will have an answer here in probably February for you, a much better answer for you than the one I just gave you. Forever Eagles says, sup man, which QB should I start this week, Mahomes or Darnold? I feel like Chiefs going to run heavy and blow out the Panthers, so less passing for Mahomes. I probably would lean Darnold as well, because I agree that the Chiefs are probably going to do that. Paris says, have you guys been working on any BDG Dynasty videos? No, not really at the moment. So over the last few weeks, Nick has had Adam and I kind of shift our focus towards the Dynasty season. So Adam and I, we've kind of been thinking about what we want to do once the offseason hits and how we want to kind of push the content, I guess how you could say. But overall, man, I think the BDG Dynasty stuff, those are going to be coming probably as soon as the NFL season is over. Once the NFL season is over, we'll be right back on the Dynasty channel doing a bunch of Dynasty videos. But I am doing about one or two Dynasty videos per week on this channel. So if you still want Dynasty content, I do have some Dynasty content on this channel. Tomorrow we're reviewing some Dynasty trades. So still have some stuff popping up on this channel if you're interested. Cam says, appreciate it. Edson says, what is your top 5 2025 rookies right now? I would go Gene T, probably number 1. With that said, I think Shadur is at the moment my QB1 in the class. I also like Travis Hunter as a top 5 guy. This is not in order, by the way. I also like Travis Hunter as a top 5 guy. I like Teteroa McMillan as a top 5 guy. And then it's either like Luther Burden, Omarion Hampton, Cam Ward. It's kind of those guys in that order. I think I just gave you like 7 guys, but those are like the top of the class for me at the moment. PJ Nasty says, start Marvin Harrison Jr. or Tyrone Tracy. I need upside. I'd probably be playing... If you need upside, Tyrone Tracy has the safer floor to me, and it's a much safer floor. If you need upside, I think Marvin Harrison has the upside. So if you're only shooting for upside, go Marvin Harrison. But if you say you need upside, but you actually need some floor too, Tyrone Tracy probably has similar upside, but a safer floor. JCast says, how do you think Kelce will be used on Sunday and rest of the season? I might trade him first, or might trade him for a wide receiver 1. Kelce's probably going to be fine the rest of the way. Kelce just is going to do what he does. I think the one thing that I'm worried about is now that the perfect season is no longer a thing that can happen for the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a chance that they start resting some guys as they get close to the playoffs. Because now, you know, at the time it was like, you're playing for the perfect season. You're going to run guys the whole entire way. Now I'm worried that we're going to start resting some of these guys as you get later into the year. How do I view him rest of the season? He's still one of the top tight ends for me the rest of the way. But if you need to trade him for a wide receiver 1 and you can actually get a wide receiver 1 for him, I'm all for it. Zach says, should I start Keenan Allen or Adam Thielen? I'm probably going to play Keenan Allen over Adam Thielen. Armin says, hey guys, should I sit Debo for Disley and Otten? Purdy is out while McConkey is limited and Evans returns. There's a lot to unpack here. I think for me, McConkey is limited. I think he plays. So assuming McConkey and Evans plays, I'm playing McConkey and Evans. If they don't play, I'm probably going to play... I probably do play Disley and Otten over Debo. I might consider Debo over Otten, but I'm definitely playing Disley. But I'm just hoping that potentially McConkey plays. I think McConkey's going to play. We got Jacob says, would you trade Aaron Jones and McLaurin for Walker and Pickens? Other wide receivers are A.J. Brown and Evans, and running backs. Thanks and have a great night. I think I would. I like Walker more than I like Aaron Jones the rest of the way, and McLaurin and Pickens are close enough for me that I probably lean Pickens in that trade just because you get Walker thrown in as well. So, yeah, I'd probably do that. Edson says, yeah, I feel like 2 to 7, all the same tier right now. I don't think Shadir becomes the clear, or I do think Shadir becomes the clear number 2 in the class 2. Travis makes me nervous because of the defense. Don't know how much offense he'll play. That's the dude. I was actually talking about that with War MFGDs from our Let's Talk Dynasty show, and I was saying that, like, to me, the fact that he's gonna play or wants to play both sides of the ball, that almost like docks him in my fantasy football rankings. I mean, it's gonna be so fun, and it's a hell of a thing to do in real life. But I don't want my wide receiver playing defensive snaps. I'm sorry, for fantasy football, I don't want you doing that. So I think it's going to be tough. He does make you nervous. I totally agree with that. Marcy says, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you. Go Ducks. Ducks look good, too. I like Evan Stewart over there. And it's Tez something. JCast says, thank you. Gerard says, PPR, need a wide receiver and a flex. I have Downs, Ridley, Jennings, Rashad White, and Hawkinson. So PPR, need the wide receiver. I'm going to go Downs as your wide receiver. For your flex, I'm going to go Rashad White. Rashad White for the flex. Downs for the wide receiver. All right, folks, we got about 10-15 more minutes in here before we are done for the evening, so let's get those last questions in here. I love that we've been a little bit dynasty focused and a little bit prospect talk here tonight. It's a good change of pace, I think. But yeah, let's keep those questions coming in. Obviously, keep throwing in those redraft questions, those start sits, those whatever you got, trade questions if you have them. But Let's finish this stream off. All right, Johnny says, do you think Dallas shuts down Lamb for the rest of the season? It's in the back of my mind. I think there's a problem here, man, because he's started to get banged up. I don't know if he's actually banged up, but he started to get banged up after Dak went down for the rest of the year. Obviously, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, they are not playing for anything in 2024. I think that there's a chance that this happens. Probability, range of outcomes, I'm going to put it at 20%. I think 20% chance that Lamb doesn't finish the entirety of the season. 80% chance he does. Edson says, yeah, but no question as a talent, Travis is at the top of the class, but Prob not taking that risk. It just depends, man. It depends on where he goes. A lot can change between now and then. I hope he plays wide receiver, and I hope he plays it for... I mean, it would be really cool if him and Shadur could link back up at the NFL level. I just don't think that happens. Perry says, who are your top 5 running backs in this class? No order at the moment, but I think these are the guys in consideration for the top 5. G&T obviously has to be in there. Amarion Hampton's in there. I like Quinshon Judkins and Trevion Henderson. I like both of them. I also like Nick Singleton as some of the top 5 guys. I think right now there's going to be names that I have, but like I said, I don't dive into the tape to officially put rankings out until I am confident with that tape evaluation. So at the moment, I am probably going to list those guys as guys that I'm watching near the top of my list. Edson says, also going back to the Cooper Rush tier QBs and trading assets for them, would I be better served just starting one QB and running flex options at the other QB slot? It depends on who those flex options are. For example, I had the question in a startup league this week, in my own league. It's either Bryce Young or Chuba Hubbard. I'm just going to play Chuba Hubbard over Bryce Young. I know it's a super flex and everybody, wants to play the QB. I'm just going to play Chuba Hubbard. Things like that makes sense to me. I mean, if you're talking about like playing Zach Ertz or a quarterback like Cooper Rush, I probably lean Cooper Rush, but yeah, it's going to depend on the flex, or I guess the other guy you have. JCast says, Aaron Jones is a good running back, but he has produced less as the season goes on. Should I start him over Tracy and Walker? No, I have Tracy and Walker over him in my rankings this week. Aaron Jones is a good running back, and yeah, he is not producing at a super high level at the moment. Fabian says, is CMC still worth a late first? Wanted to see if I could pull a fast one by hovering Javonte Williams in a second. I currently paid a late first for CMC in one of my leagues. I went and purchased CMC, so yes, I would say he's still worth a late first to the right buyer. If you need to hover Javonte in a second, maybe it'll get it done, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Edson says, not in playoffs, but consolation bracket determined number 1, so I need a decent squad going in. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. You said your flex options are D-Hop, Adams, and Ridley. I probably play those guys over Cooper Rush at this point. Marcy says Tez Johnson. Yeah, that's the guy who I was trying to talk about. Tez. I don't know why I wanted to call him Tez Walker. That is definitely not his name, but it's Tez Johnson. Crizzy says full PPR 12 team. If you had to trade one, who would it be? Marvin Harrison Jr. or Neighbors? If I have to trade one, I don't want to trade one because both of their end of season schedules are pretty damn good. I think I would trade Neighbors because I think he can fetch me more in the trade market. Plus, I don't have to deal with DeVito. So I'd probably keep Marvin Harrison and trade Neighbors. All right. Anything else, folks? Maybe. Maybe not. I will say, I meant to do this earlier too as well. I'm going to hit you guys with a promo. We do have a Matthew Stafford free pick being given to us from Underdog. This is for new customers. So if you guys have never used Underdog and you want to sign up, this is a free pick for you. You have to use our code in order to get it. Our code over on Underdog is League FFB. It's all caps. You see it on the screen. They'll also give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash if you sign up using that code. So you get some free bonus cash, some free money to play with. You get the free Matthew Stafford pick in this week's game against the Eagles. That's a good way to get you started off on your Underdog journey, and that is a way to win some money here this weekend. This is, I mean, it's damn near a freebie. So make sure you sign up using code LeagueFFB. Like I said, take advantage of that promo. There's a link in the description. You can't miss it. There's some little sirens around it, so make sure you go check that link out if you've never signed up. It does support the show. You know, we get a little bit of a kickback from Underdog, so if you want to support us, that's the best way to do it. I appreciate you guys for doing that, as always. Now, see, we got a couple more questions in here, so we'll get through these, and once we get to the end of these ones, we're going to end the stream. So if you want your question answered, get it into this chat right now, because if it's not in the chat by the time I get to the bottom, we out of here, folks. Edson says, yeah, that's why I traded a second for Ridley, because I thought it'd be better than trading assets for a random backup QB who's the starter rest of the way. I agree. That makes a lot of sense, and that's something that I would definitely be doing. Fabian says, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, AJB and Gibbs, or Garrett Wilson, Rice, and a late 2025 first. I am going to go the AJ Brown and Gibbs side there. Should I start Wan'Dale Robinson or Jacoby Myers in half PPR? I would play Jacoby. Edson says, I also had 3 seconds, so now I have 2. I'm not tripping. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, dude. Makes sense. Johnny says, when does Rodgers sign with the Vikes to fulfill the Favre career path? Dude, I will be so unhappy. I will be so unhappy if this ever happens. I've seen it floated around the internet. I've seen it floated around, you know, X and whatever. This is disaster levels. I pray Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell are not dumb enough to bring in scumbag Rodgers to the Minnesota Vikings. But we'll see, man. B-Rob or Jonathan Taylor, full PPR. Give me B-Rob this week. Gage says, raid the squad. QBs are now Dak, Darnold, Nix. Running backs are Bijan, Brees, Gibbs, Benson. Wide receivers are Nico, Kupp, Higgins, Addison, Jacoby, Leggett. And then the tight ends are Njoku and Muth. It's a pretty solid roster. I think QB-wise, obviously you're not going to get a lot out of Dak and Darnold. We'll see what he does next year. But I think you're building, man. I like having that running back room of Bijan, Brees, and Gibbs. Benson's good in there too. Nico, Kupp, Higgins. I mean, you have some good pieces here. The QB room feels a little bit sketchy at the moment, but that'll fix itself over time. I think Nix and Dak are your guys long term, and I still believe that Sam Darnold might have potentially, even though he hasn't been great over the last couple of weeks, I still think he might have potentially played his way into a contract or at least a bridge type of option, you know, competing for a starting job going into next year. What do we got? How significant is the difference between half and full PPR leagues? Not super different. Not really that different. I mean, you just think about it. It's really just an extra half point for the receptions. I think you're going to see more of a difference for the running backs than you do the wide receivers, specifically like guys like Austin Eckler, who really don't run the football that much, but they catch, 6 passes for 70 yards. You'll see a difference in those types of guys. Guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, who are kind of more PPR scams. You'll notice the difference in those in the full PPR, but there's not a massive difference between the two. Matt says, I'm worried about PS2 locking Myers up. I somewhat agree. I don't know how much he's going to follow Myers, especially if Myers starts moving into the slot in that game. But it'll be interesting. I really don't trust Wan'Dale Robinson with DeVito this week. All right, I think these are the last couple ones. Edson says, now I can trade D-Hop for Russell Wilson or someone. Is that worth it? Yeah, if you can move D-Hop for Russell Wilson, I think that's worth it, because I think Russ is the Steelers starter next year. I think he really is. I think he's the starter for them next year, and in a super flex, that's probably more valuable to you. And then Edson says, just thought about it. Not sure if it is, though. I think it is. I think it is worth it. I'd probably be trying to do that if I were you. But there you have it, folks. That is it. Like I said, you want to support us over on Underdog, you can by using this code League FFB. But other than that, folks, that is it, really. I don't have anything else too much. Mike says, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you guys being subscribed. Appreciate you guys if you have hit the like button already. If you haven't, consider hitting that like button as well. If you feel like you got your questions answered, if you feel like, I don't know why that came up again. If you feel like you got your questions answered, if you feel like you had some entertainment tonight, you just hung out and you had some fun, hit the like button for me. And we're going to draft some Underdog teams tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll draft 4 more Battle Royale teams and keep this going, man, as we head into Week 12. Trying to get these wins, trying to secure some playoff spots in those leagues, trying to get everything lined up, man, because we want to win some championships here at the League FFB this year, hoping that we can help you guys do that as well. But like I said, man, I have nothing else for you guys. Everybody stay blessed, stay healthy, stay happy, and I will see you guys on our next episode. But until then, peace out.